This is the Sony XZ1 Compact, the little brother of the XZ1, and with a 4.6-inch screen, it feels tiny by today's standards, but for a lot of people, that's exactly why you might want to buy it. This thing really is small. The XZ1 Compact came out back in October, and I've had about a month with it now to find out if it's actually any good. And what surprises most people is that this isn't some budget compact phone with rubbish specs. It actually packs in the latest Snapdragon 835 and 4 gigs of RAM. That's the same specs as the Galaxy S8 or Pixel 2, and it runs the latest Android 8 Oreo software. Recently, I've been using some pretty big phones like the Galaxy Note 8 or even the Pixel 2 XL. And going back to the XZ1 Compact's 4.6-inch screen, it feels really weird. I'm not used to it. I'm used to these big phones now. It's actually really refreshing to be able to use a phone one-handed for a change. Your thumb will reach right across the screen, easily get to the top. It's actually really quite nice to be able to do that. What I will say though is it's not the best looking phone. At 9.3mm thick, it does feel quite chunky and also perhaps a little bit cheap. Technically the body is plastic, but the unibody design is actually made from a fancy glass fiber woven plastic, giving it an almost metallic finish, which looks reasonably nice, but on the whole, it just doesn't give you that premium feeling a lot of other phones do. But really, it's those huge bezels that make the phone feel a bit clunky and old-fashioned. Although to be fair, a lot of people do still love this omni-balance design that Sony's been using for the last few years, with a slightly more industrial aesthetic and squared off edges, but I actually find the sharp corners quite uncomfortable, and overall, I just think it looks a bit dated. Although the chunky bezels do leave room for front-facing speakers, you also get a fingerprint reader built into the power button, and you get IP65-68 water resistance. So the design may be a little bit dated, but Sony's tri-luminous display is actually just right. I say that because on paper, the 720p resolution may not sound great, especially next to Full HD, Quad HD, and even 4K rivals like the Sony XZ Premium, but it's perfect for this 4.6-inch screen size, and it means it's got about the same pixel density as the iPhone 8. And the added benefit of this lower resolution is better battery life. The screen is almost always the biggest drain on battery life, and with the same 2700 mAh cell as its bigger brother, the Sony XZ1, but with a smaller, lower res screen, the Compact delivers really impressive battery life. An hour of Netflix uses about 13% of the battery, and by the end of a normal day, I still had about 30% left. So it's not quite at the same level as the Huawei Mate 10 or the Lenovo Peak 2, but it lasts longer than most phones and can easily last you a day and a half. But as I was saying earlier, most people look at a compact phone or one this size and think it's probably some cheap rubbish. But the fact that it's got a Snapdragon 835 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, Android 8 Oreo means it feels really fast and responsive to use. It's not quite as smooth and slick as, say, the OnePlus 5T or the Pixel 2, as they're much closer to stock Android, but Sony's UI is still one of my favorites. Although I have to admit, it's a bit annoying the amount of bloatware you get on the Sony phone. Apps like Movie Creator, Sketch, AVG Antivirus, 3D Creator, PenUp, there's a lot of stuff pre-installed here which isn't very nice. But once you remove and disable most of that, then it's absolutely fine. As for the camera, the Compact shares the same 19 megapixel f2.0 camera as its bigger brother, and makes use of their innovative stacked sensor, which uses a little bit of the phone's RAM to let the camera process photos faster and other bits of trickery. But what's interesting is that, like most Sony phones recently, it all sounds great on paper with lots of fancy tech and high-end sensors, but the end results are a little bit of a mixed bag. Photos and 4K videos can look really nice, especially in good light, but it doesn't quite compete with the Galaxy S8, Pixel 2, or the latest iPhones in terms of noise levels and dynamic range. I also find it overdoes the contrast and saturation a bit, which can make it look more vibrant, but it is less natural. I think a wider aperture would definitely help here, and it's a decent camera overall, just not as good as the competition. But surprisingly, you do also get the cool 960 FPS super slow motion feature, taken straight from the flagship XZ Premium. It's cool when it works and you have really good light, but I found it kind of a pain in the ass to use consistently well. But it's still a nice option to have. So while it may not be perfect, I really do like the Sony XZ1 Compact. There's so few good phones, especially with high-end specs like this, with smaller screens, and I still think there's a big market for it. It doesn't look the most modern, the camera's good rather than great, but you get a great compact size, really good battery life, solid performance, a good screen, and best of all, it's actually pretty good value for money. It launched at £499 or $599, which was reasonable, but it's been a little over a month since it came out and it's already dropped by £100 or $100. I've put links to all that in the description if you want to check those out, but really for me, this is one of the, I have to say, few Sony phones recently that I do genuinely highly recommend. And while we wait for an iPhone SE 2, which will hopefully be coming next year, right now, I think this is the best compact phone you can buy. So thank you very much for watching. Click that like and subscribe button if you liked the video. Help me get to 200,000 subscribers, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.